Hello, and welcome to the Cerberus PRO C-Web Stations e-learning module. This lesson explains about the different stations and network topologies. It is based on Introduction Package 7 and covers the functions and components of the international version. In this chapter, we will go into more detail about how the C-Web works. We will show you the available station types as well as housing and hardware options. Let's start with the various ways fire control panels and fire terminals can be networked. Networking via C-Web Safety Link. As you can see from the diagram, we can link up to 32 fire control panels and/or fire terminals. The C-Web is loop-wired using two core cables. The cable can be unshielded or shielded. The maximum distance between each device on the C-Web is 1,000 meters. The C-Web Safety Link is EN54 compliant. For greater distances, more than 1,000 meters, we also have a fiber optic solution to increase the distance between stations. The fiber optic network module supports two independent channels. With the optical C-Web LAN, you can network up to 64 stations. The system is EN54 compliant. The maximum distance between the stations on the C-Web LAN is 40,000 meters, depending on the used fiber optic module inside of the FN2012. Redundant data transfer is ensured by the loop-shaped optical wiring. In total, 14 subnets can be formed. Each subnet can contain up to 16 stations. The router station is responsible for communicating with the optical C-Web LAN. This panel is connected to the optical C-Web LAN with an Ethernet switch. If a redundant connection is required in accordance with EN54, the standby router station must be used. It ensures a redundant connection to the C-Web LAN. If the router station fails, the standby router automatically takes over and ensures the connection to the C-Web LAN. You can use Cerberus Remote to access the site remotely. The GAP station takes over the function of the global access point of a site for the Cerberus engineering tool, or the Cerberus Remote. If Cerberus Remote is used, you need an S1 license key in the corresponding station to enable remote access. This will also enable you to perform maintenance and commissioning remotely. The connection can be established via a dedicated network. If the connection to the site is established via an untrustworthy network, you need a firewall that acts as zone boundary protection to protect the C-Web from unauthorized access. For further information, please read the FS 720 Network Security Guidelines. Another way to communicate with a station is by using the Cerberus mobile app. It can be installed on Android devices and enables you to view or operate the system remotely. The connection can be established via a wireless local area network or via UMTS. If you're going to use Cerberus Mobile, you will need an S3 license key for the station that you want to access. Additionally, to access it securely, the smartphone must be registered in the station. Do not forget to protect your system. If it is connected via an untrustworthy network, you will need a firewall as zone boundary protection to protect the C-Web from unauthorized access. For further information, please read the FS 720 Network Security Guidelines. As you can see from the picture, the station is able to communicate with a management platform such as Cerberus DMS. This communication is carried out via the Ethernet port on the GAP station using the BACnet protocol. No license key is required for a BT management platform. You can also communicate with a third-party management platform using the BACnet protocol. Depending on the access rights, this generally requires a license key. If your management platform is connected via an untrustworthy network, you need a firewall as zone boundary protection to protect the C-Web from unauthorized access. For further information, please read the FS 720 Network Security Guidelines. Let's move on to the system functions. Cerberus PRO offers maximum safety to protect people and assets right from the start. The following product features are integrated into all Cerberus PRO control panels. Auto configuration. This ensures that the customer's environment is protected as soon as a fire control panel is installed in a building. Once it has been installed, the CNET can be connected to the control panel. You can configure the fire control panel automatically using a single command. All CNET devices are read in automatically, and the fire control panel is ready to use immediately. If a fire detector detects a danger, this is displayed immediately on the control panel. The automatically generated customer text shows which zone and which detector has responded. The alarm transmission can be activated at the same time. The building is protected right from the start. The degraded mode safety feature is always included in every fire control panel. First, let's look at how the fire control panel normally works. It continuously monitors the CNET. Fire. If a fire detector detects a danger, the fire detector immediately forwards the message to the fire control panel. This shows the customer text for the detector on the display. The message is sent via the C-Web to the other control panel that is responsible for transmitting the alarm signal across the whole system. This is how the site would respond under normal circumstances. But what happens if a fire control panel fails? Can an alarm signal still be forwarded to the fire brigade? Yes, it most certainly can. In this situation, the degraded mode is automatically activated, and the hardware components now monitor the CNET. Fire. A fire detector detects a danger. Because the processor has failed, the control panel is unable to display a message on the screen. However, the red LED displays the alarm and the control panel activates the outputs and the sounders on the CNET. Degraded mode ensures that the alarm can be forwarded to the other control panel via the C-Web. The alarm is shown as a degraded alarm on the display. The degraded alarm is now forwarded as usual to the fire brigade. Degraded mode makes sure that the system is ready at all times, even if a processor fails. We would now like to show you some more information about degraded mode. The standby function is used when the fire control panels communicate with a management platform. First, let's remind ourselves what usually happens. Normally, the fire control panel communicates with the management platform via the TCP/IP network. The status is displayed on the management platform, and commands can be sent to the fire control panels. But what happens if the management platform loses its connection with the network? Can the security operator still operate the system? If this happens, the standby function is automatically activated in a matter of seconds on the security operator's additional fire terminal. The fire terminal is activated via C-Web, and the security operator can now operate the fire control panels seamlessly via the fire terminal. This function can be activated to achieve the required visibility on any station on the C-Web. It is not essential to have an additional backup station. The standby function can be used to display the status of the fire detection system at all times, and smooth operation is always guaranteed. Before we take a look to the single variations of the panels, let's consider a standard buildup of a Cerberus PRO fire control panel. The periphery board has the loop connections and the inputs/outputs for RT fault, alarm, and monitored horns. According to station type, we could have a single loop FC2010 and dual loop FC2002 or an FC2004 with 4 loop connections on the board. In our case, we see the FC2004 board with 4 loops. Connected via the orange screw terminals, we connect our power supply unit, PSU, which the backup battery pack is connected to. The PMI board is the main controller and carries all the interface options, such as the serial interface, network modules, MONET connection module, and the LED indicator module. The safety link modules are used to connect the fire control panels to each other. This option is possible for all networkable fire control panels. To be in alignment with the EN54, it is needed to build in a secondary safety link module if your fire panel has got the remote transmission for other panels in the network and/or contains more than 512 detectors. The RS-232 module for use when the printer is selected. The RS-485 module to provide alternative serial communication to third-party fire peripheral modules. To connect the FN2010 network switch to the panel, it would be functional to use the MONET module. Additional to the indication options of the panel, you can order a different PMI with 24 LED indicators. Now that we know the individual components that make up a Cerberus PRO fire control panel, let's look at the various fire control panels and their functions. Here, we have the FC721 in the Eco housing for standalone applications. It comes with the following features as standard. 1 detector loop with capacity for 126 devices, or 2 stubs. 2 monitored outputs, 1 for an RT alarm, 1 for an RT fault. 2 relay outputs, 1 for an alarm, 1 for a fault. 1 monitored horn line, and 4 freely configurable inputs or outputs. The Eco housing is fitted with a 70-watt power supply. An alternative housing comes with 24 LED display groups. Other options are also available. Here, we have the FC722 in various styles in both the standard and comfort housing. It comes with the following features as standard. 2 detector loops with capacity for 252 devices or 4 stubs. 2 monitored outputs, 1 for an RT alarm, 1 for an RT fault. 2 relay outputs, 1 for an alarm, the other for a fault. 1 monitored horn line. 8 freely configurable inputs or outputs. The housings have the following variants from the factory. The standard housing is fitted with a 70-watt power supply and with or without 24 LED display groups. The comfort housing is fitted with the 150-watt power supply and with or without 48 LED display groups. Other options are also available. As we can see, the FC724 comes in the comfort housing. It has the following features as standard. 4 detector loops with capacity for 504 devices or 8 stubs. 2 monitored outputs, 1 for an RT alarm, the other for an RT fault. 2 relay outputs, 1 for an alarm, the other for a fault. 2 monitored horn lines. 12 freely configurable inputs or outputs. The comfort housing is fitted with a 150-watt power supply. This housing can also be fitted with a 48 LED display group. Other options are also available. We are now familiar with our standard panels, but what do we do if we need more than 4 loops? Simple. We use one of our modular fire control panels. The FC723 uses an FCI 2002 and the FC726 uses an FCI 2004. So, how can we add extra hardware to our panels to increase the range of options? We just add an FC2006 to our PMI. This allows us to add a card cage. Simply connect the FCA 2006 via the X11 slot on the PMI mainboard to connect the card cages. There are two kinds of card cages, the FCA 2007 and the FCA 2008. The first one has 2 module card slots and the second one has 5 module card slots. Now let's look at the FC723 fire control panel in a comfort housing. The modular control panels come with the following features as standard. In the basic design, there are 2 detector loops. This can be extended up to 12 loops with a capacity for 756 devices. The integrated card cage has space for 2 module bus cards. The following types are available: CNAT line card, Loop line card, and I/O cards. Inputs and outputs. 2 monitored outputs, one for an RT alarm, one for an RT fault. 2 relay outputs, one for an alarm, one for a fault. 1 monitored horn line. 8 freely configurable inputs and outputs. The whole setup is packaged in a comfort housing and equipped with a 150-watt power supply. Other options are also available. Here, we have the modular FC726 fire control panel in a large housing. The modular control panels have the following features as standard. In the basic design, there are 4 detector loops. It can have as many as 28 loops with a capacity for 1,512 devices. It has an integrated card cage with space for 5 module bus cards. The following types are available: CNAT line cards, Loop line cards, and I/O cards. 2 monitored outputs, one for an RT alarm, the other for an RT fault. 2 relay outputs, one for an alarm, one for a fault. 2 monitored horn lines. 12 freely configurable inputs and outputs. The whole setup is packaged in a large housing and equipped with a 150-watt power supply. Other options are also available. Let's look at the card cage and module bus cards in more detail. The integrated card cage, shown here on the left, has space for 5 extra module bus cards. The various cards can be plugged into any slot. What functions do the different module bus cards cover? The CNAT line card allows you to have an extra 252 CNAT devices on a maximum of 4 loops or 8 stub lines. The Loop line card allows you to have an extra 512 devices on a maximum of 4 loops or 4 stub lines. What is this line card used for? To modernize Sonova fire control panels, it is possible to take loops from Sonova over to Cerberus PRO. Let's go back to the various cards. The I/O card allows you to have an extra 12 freely configurable inputs and outputs with a preset behavior in degraded mode. The I/O card for monitored sounders allows you to have an extra 8 configurable outputs for monitored sounders. The I/O card for remote transmission provides remote transmission connections for alarms and faults. It also has 2 outputs for monitored sounders. All module bus cards can be replaced during operation without needing to interrupt the system. Here, we have the FT724 fire terminal in the Eco housing. It can be supplied either with an optional internal power supply or via a nearby control panel. The fire terminal is an operating terminal with no detection or input or outputs. Other options are also available. Let's move on to look at the various housing types for fire control panels and fire terminals. The Eco housing is used for the fire terminal and for the FC721, a one-loop control panel. The FC722, a two-loop control panel, is available in either the standard or comfort housing. The FC724, a four-loop panel, and the FC723 control panels are only available in the comfort housing. Large housings are available for the modular FC726 control panels. These have different depths to the comfort housing. The housing types also differ in terms of the power supply and battery capacity they use. The operating add-ons, which are on the lower part of the fire control panels, are available in the following versions: empty, with a cutout section for the event printer, with 48 LED indicators and a cutout for the event printer, with 96 LED indicators only. Here, we have additional housing options. It is possible to install the fire control panels and the fire terminals in a 19-inch cabinet. There are also various empty housing types. They are used for components which do not fit into the stations, that is, decentralized power supply units or additional batteries. If the housings have the same depth as each other, they can be stacked. And now, let's look at the hardware options. The loop extension module can be used in all fire control panels except the FC721. It is used to double the number of loops and/or stubs. This helps you to adapt the system to existing wiring. The total number of addresses on the fire control panel remains the same. As an example, here is a loop extension for the FC722, which increases the number of loops from 2 to 4. The stub lines can use the loop extension to increase the number of stubs from 4 to 8. Serial interfaces can also be found in the group of hardware options. The RS-485 serial interface can be used to connect additional devices, such as evacuation terminals. Another option is the RS-232 serial interface for the event printer. This can be connected to both fire control panels and fire terminals. If you need an external printer, we can offer you the Fujitsu FL3750 Plus, which can connect to the fire panel in two different ways. The easiest way is to connect the printer via the RS-232 module. It can also be connected via the Ethernet connection. But if you use this method, you will need another print server. Like the Ethernet connection, the printer is permanently monitored with the serial connection. If this connection fails or is interrupted, this is indicated on the fire control panel. The Safety Link network module can be mounted on the fire control panel and also on the fire terminal. One slot is for primary communication and is active during normal operation. If required, the other slot provides backup communication in degraded mode. Both slots use the same hardware module. In accordance with EN 54, if the system has more than 512 fire detectors in total, a second backup network module is required. It must be installed in the panel with a remote transmission connection. The two modules in this panel provide redundant communication in the C-Web. There are some other versions of the FC721 and FC722, which include the FTO2008 on the operation unit. Single or multiple FTO2008s can be added to all other station types. They are mounted on the lower part of the comfort or large housing. They can be configured as either a zone indicator or an LED indicator. If configured as a zone indicator, each zone is assigned to two LEDs, red for the alarm and yellow for faults and isolation. If configured as an LED indicator, the individual LEDs are freely configurable. You can configure the first LED as either a red or a green indication for various causes as controls. Up to 5 FTO2008 modules can be used in a station. A single extinguishing sector can be added to the FC722 and FC724 in comfort or large housing by adding the XCA2005A1 extinguishing kit, which includes the connection module, the extinguishing card cage, the accessory set, and the extinguishing control card. This kit offers you high-end featured extinguishing control seamlessly integrated in our fire detection system. To control the extinguishing sector, you have to add an XCM7202 extinguishing terminal that fits into the lower part of the fire control panels, or an XT2001 remote extinguishing terminal that can be mounted next to the fire system or in your extinguishing sector. Up to 6 terminals can be connected to one extinguishing card cage. For further details, please refer to the Extinguishing e-learning module. In the next chapter, you will learn more about the topic CNET peripherals.